This podcast brought to you by Podcast Center LA.
Action, focus, discipline. This is the Zero Excuses podcast. Each and every week, we talk to high-performing, inspirational athletes, entrepreneurs, and leaders. We ask powerful questions to extract their tools, strategies, and life lessons for you to crush your excuses, to break out of your comfort zone, and accomplish your ambitious dreams and goals. Here's your host, Kenyon Zitska.
All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Appreciate you tuning in. You are listening to the second part of my marathon interview with Mr. Jason Pockrandt. If you didn't catch the show last week, definitely encourage you to go back and give that a listen to first. Definitely want to listen to these in the proper order. But just as a quick reminder, Jason, he's the author of Father-Daughter Conversations, and he is leading other men on the charge to become the best fathers to their family and communities. And he also had quite a journey to get to this point. He lost his father at a young age due to a hard-fought battle with prescription pills, and you definitely want to go back and hear that part of his story. But before we get into the rest of the conversation with Jason, I want to remind you guys of a couple things real quick. First, if you haven't left us a rating and review on iTunes, you can head to kenyonzitska.com/iTunes, and it'll take you right to the page you need to go to do that for us. Appreciate everyone who has left me a rating and a review to this point, and I appreciate every single one of them. I know your time is valuable, and I truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart for you taking the time to do that. Lastly, if you want to take these strategies, these tools, and in fact, in today's interview, we're going to be talking about many of them, and it'll be a good sneak peek into a little bit of what I go over when you are part of my discipline coaching program. You can apply at kenyonzitska.com/discipline to be placed on the wait list. Don't have any slots open at the moment, but if you want to be among the first to be notified when a slot does open up, you can just simply fill out that application, and I'll still offer you a chance to talk with me one-on-one. That way, I'm not going to keep you waiting, and we'll see if we're a good fit for working together. And if you are going to be someone who is committed to doing the work, investing the time, the resources, and the energy into crafting the processes, procedures, and tactics that are going to get you to the results that you want. All right, guys, enough on all that. Let's get into the conversation with Jason.
So I want to tap in because I'm curious. How do you optimize your sleep? So you and I, we're about the same age. Our daughters are the same. You you got the day job, right? We've got a wife, takes care of the kid, or stays home, cares for the child all day, and then you come home. You got to do dinner. You got to do your business. You got to, put the baby to bed. You got, your daughter. You got to hang out with them. You got to do everything, and try to get in bed by 11:30 or something, because you're getting up at 5 or 4 or
4:30. Yeah.
4:30 in the morning. Good. Yep. What time do you go to sleep?
I'm in bed by 10, but my wife likes to. I know the all the sleep Nazis will probably shit their pants, but she likes to. We like to watch a little TV before we fall asleep.
Ooh, so, no, okay.
But no, I mean I'm in bed by 10 or 10:30, and we do our thing for half an hour, 45 minutes, and then I'm asleep. I'm probably asleep before the TV goes off. But I would say the key to that is planning your days out the night before. I do what I call a hot wash up every night of the previous day, so that I evaluate what I did, what I didn't get done, take some lessons learned, figure out what I will do differently going forward based on what I learned today, and basically just get, puke everything that's on my mind onto paper.
Nice.
That way. I'm not a big journaler, but I'm by trade, I'm an engineer. So I kind of think in bulletized formats. So I'm like, okay, do this, not that, and kind of get that onto paper. you've seen some of the worksheets that I use, but essentially that's what my daily planner looks like. The left-hand side is kind of a morning primer, and then the bottom half of the left-hand side is the evening hot wash up. Actually, I might be getting that backwards. I'm kind of on autopilot with that these days. But then the middle part is then the last 2/3 is planning out the day and kind of brainstorming, and then getting into a cohesive schedule for the day for the next day. And then I also do that for my weeks, get a lay of the land for what I have coming up for the week. And, that helps me sleep soundly at night. And then I also do some meditation and I drink some sleepy time tea, and I take a sleep supplement that gets me into a very, very deep state of sleep every single night. I just, as long as my cats don't start scratching at our bedroom door, I usually can go, from putting my head down on the pillow till my alarm goes off.
Wow.
Sleeping a solid night. I mean, that wasn't the case a couple years ago when my daughter was, still a newborn and whatnot. But with my daughter, it's keeping her on a solid routine too. Very, very seldomly will she wake up in the middle of the night and come in and wake me and my wife up. So it's also getting her on a solid schedule and communicating to her like why it's important that, like, hey, it's important that we go to bed at a specific time and wake up at a specific time, because that's I'm not trying to be a very hardcore disciplinarian with my daughter, mm-hmm. but I'm just trying to show her that the people who accomplish the most in life are those who go about it in a structured manner. And, they're trying to walk a fine line between showing her, how being disciplined will work to her advantage, while at the same time allowing her that freedom to figure that out on her own. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm curious, do you have it planned out? Like, so when you're planning your days, do you have it like 6 o'clock? Is it like 6 o'clock every night is when you do your hot wash, or like 7 o'clock is when you guys do dinner, and 8 o'clock's bath and bed? Or do you have like just a general sense of here's what needs to get done every night from Kenyon's home at 5:30, 6 o'clock. Got to talk to my wife, have dinner, pack lunch, do whatever, and then you just kind of make it happen? Or how do you balance that with your wife's schedule as well, like being flexible but being rigid? And
yeah, I mean, we definitely are pretty good at communicating what the anomalies are. We generally have a good day-to-day routine.
Gotcha.
Like for example, my daughter is usually in bed by 8:30. Me and you had a podcast scheduled at from 9 to 10, and my wife is doing her thing. She has a little side hustle, so she tends to do invoices.
Oh, awesome.
She does. She tends to do invoices and other things while I do I call it my little power hour. It's where I do some stuff for the podcast or some of the other things I have going on, or I kind of wrap up some things that I didn't I had planned on doing earlier but didn't quite get the chance to do. So, we have our blocks of time. For example, I get home usually by 4:30, 5 o'clock. And, this week we've been going to the beach a lot because it's still, nice. It still feels like summer down here in South Carolina. So, and my daughter's a water bug. I think I'm going to enroll her in surf lessons, but we've been, nice. by the time I get home and that time that I get home and walk in the door and my daughter's still, out and about and, causing havoc around the house, I kind of have come to understand that, hey, this is family time. And, that 4:30 to 8:30, that's 4 hours of solid family time. I don't plan on trying to get any, business or work or anything else done. So that's like our block of time to just spend together. And, the beach is usually our default answer for spending quality time together, or we've been getting her into some sports and other activities like gymnastics and things like that. So, wintertime's coming up, so we'll probably do some like ice skating or hockey, or she already tried knocking a tooth out. So I think she's got that in her blood too. So
ready for Taekwondo.
Yeah.
See, that's awesome. I think, and that's been one of the struggles, I think, for a lot of people, and I'm not sure if your audience struggles with that too, is that feeling that guilt of whether or not, if I didn't do enough for my business in the morning, or if I spent too much time with my family at night, because that's a pretty huge block during the day. I mean, to go from 5 o'clock until 8:30 and say, you're not checking your phone, you're not doing social media, you're not trying to hit any of that up. You're just, are you just present with the family?
Yeah.
For the most part.
For the most part, I do have that temptation to check the phone, and sometimes I do. Well, a lot of times I do succumb to that temptation. But it's expanding that idea to the bigger picture of the day. It's really just scheduling out your time. I try to schedule my work in hour time blocks. And have you ever heard of the it's the Pomodoro technique. So I work feverishly for 50 minutes, and then I take a 10-minute break. Usually I have my rucksack with 30, 40 pounds in it, and I'll take a 10-minute walk. I usually can cover half a mile to 0.6 of a mile within that 10-minute time span.
Crazy.
It's usually in a safe spot. So I've got, right now I'm reading John Maxwell's How Successful People Think. So I'll read that while I'm doing my walk, or maybe I'll make a phone. I'm doing real estate investing. Maybe I'll make a sales call, or follow up with someone who expressed interest in one of my properties. So that's essentially how I get how I'm able to do a day job, and then kind of juggle these couple other things that I have going on in my life.
Yeah, that sounds pretty strict. I mean, it sounds like you guys are pretty strict, not strict, but some pretty high standards for yourself that allows you to get things done, though, too.
Yeah, I mean, what it boils down to is, with my day job, I know my ship is going to be going into a heavy maintenance availability period in March.
Sure.
I know I need to get the work package done by a specific date, and it's just having this long-term vision for everything that you have going on in your life. Like, hey, I want to get X amount of podcast episodes out. I want to sell X amount of properties. I need to get everything done, and it's like rolling everything up and seeing where you need to be in these various pieces that you have, these balls that are up in the air, and kind of reverse engineering that into some day-to-day, targets that you need to hit. And, there's some recurring ones that I try to hit, and I get those on what I call my imperatives list. And these things are things that happen on a daily frequency, or, 2 or 3 times per week frequency, a weekly frequency, or monthly, yearly, whatever it may be. I kind of brainstorm those, list those out, and it's on a master list. And when I fill out my weekly or daily schedule, I make sure I'm hitting those daily or my imperatives. I haven't got that into a worksheet format quite yet, but I'm working on definitely working on that. And preview for the Zero Excuses audience here. I'll be rolling that out here, and maybe by the time this drops, we'll have something for you guys. But that's kind of how I make sure I hit my targets. And honestly, it's also setting targets higher than you think you can achieve too. So I don't hit everything every single day. And that's where the hot wash up comes in, and making sure that you are evaluating, okay, you know what, I pushed myself today, but I didn't quite get to where I want to be. Where's the delta? What do I need to do to fill that gap?
I want to share this with you. You talked about, you mentioned setting the goal higher than we thought, right? And I think one of the most powerful things that I heard most recently, so I know you and I have had this conversation, right? So Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels, they have the One Funnel Away Challenge. And my wife and I, Chandler, we've been going through the process together. She's got her e-commerce business that we run. So she stays home and takes care of Lennox primarily because of her business that she's built up. And so we're going through this funnel challenge, right? And we were on one of the coaching calls with Steve Larson the other day, and he had talked about setting your goals, right? And he said, you are not qualified for the goal when you set the goal.
Yes.
It's in the pursuit of the goal that you become qualified to obtain it. And I was like, get the crime tape, because you just blew my mind, right?
Yeah.
Like crazy. Like, and I was thinking about it, right? I had to stop, and I wrote it down, and I thought about it, and I was like, when you think about in life, right, you and I both as coaches, we work with these people, right, and we try to help people understand how to set bigger goals. It's one thing to hear all the cliches, think and grow rich, and just like dream big, it'll be great. But the reason we don't dream big, I think is that key. Like, I don't think we understand, right? Like, I don't want to set a big goal, because if I set a goal of making $250,000 this year, like, I instantly feel bad about myself, because I can't do that. Like, I've never done that. Therefore, I don't think I can do that, because I don't think I'm qualified for it. So, like, to take that shift and realize that you set the goal intentionally higher than what you think you are qualified for, and then it is in the pursuit of the goal that you become qualified. I was like, whoa, I got to tell somebody.
Yes.
What's your thought on that?
Well, I think I definitely agree with what he said, but I think when you set goals, you set them as if you have already achieved them, because if you're tricking your mind, you're brainwashing your mind into like, hey, I am a millionaire. I own a jumbo jet, a private, a fleet of 3 private jets.
Nice.
I'm a race car driver. I am this. I am that. And then your brain just kind of goes to work to figure out how to make that happen. So it's kind of the same thing but different. But that's how I tend to look at my goals, and how I am. I used to like, hey, I want to make $1,000 this month, $1,000 of extra income this month.
Mm-hmm.
That never worked out well for me, and but it's like, I am a top podcaster. I am this. I am that. Like, those things have actually manifested themselves some way, somehow. I can't explain it, but like, when you put it, when you state your goals in that particular manner, just some sort of magic happens. I'm an engineer. I like to see the numbers. I haven't seen the numbers on that yet, so but it works. So sometimes as an engineer, you just have to hit the I believe button too.
Yeah, right, dude. That's all. Oh man, you should make a T-shirt with that on it for engineers.
Yes.
The I believe button instead of the easy button. You should be like, hit it. Yes. I believe. Put your graph paper down. Hit the I believe button.
Yep, it works.
That's awesome, man. I want to mention something too that you told me last time, and I'm assuming after our last conversation that you're totally using this as your new tagline now. But you and I had mentioned, or we're having a conversation, and you mentioned too many people are living the American dream, but not their dream. And I left and was like, oh man, that's got to be Kenyon's new tagline, because that's incredible.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I mean, you're right. I probably should be using that as my tagline, but yeah, I mean, that was, you mentioned it earlier too. Like, that's what we're programmed to think that we should, what success should be. And success for you, success for me is going to be different. And the sooner that we can slap ourselves in the face and realize that, what you want and what I want are 2 totally different things, and we need to sit down and figure that out and take the time to, like, whether that's taking a week vacation or just taking a step away from what you are currently doing and asking yourself, is this what I really want? Because I would venture a guess that 90% of people, probably a greater number of that, 99% of people aren't doing what they really want to do with their lives. Like, just simply ask yourself, what was your childhood dream? Are you doing that right now? Like, I'm sure that fire is still there for the vast majority of people. Like, my dream growing up was to be a race car driver. I did that for a period of time, but I'm not doing that now. So that's, I want to do that again. And, I don't know if I want to do it professionally, but I definitely want to, experience, racing at Daytona, racing at Indianapolis, Sebring, Monaco, like those iconic racetracks. So if you aren't doing that right now, that's like, I think that's the true American dream, is just simply living the life that you want to live, whether or not, Jimmy John down the street agrees with how you live or not. Like, that's irrelevant. Like, whatever you want to do with your life, that's the true American dream. It's not the 2.5 kids, white picket fence, golden retriever, trophy wife, 2,500 square foot, whatever it is these days. Like, that's not the American dream. And the sooner that people wake up to what they really want, I think this world will be a whole lot better place. And if you're sitting there listening to this right now and thinking, hey, that's selfish, I think the most selfish thing you can do is to deprive yourself of living the life that you want. So that's kind of my high horse speech on the American dream.
Oh, excuse me for a minute while I pick up the mic, because that was awesome. Yeah, I think I was a fully licensed financial advisor. You know what I mean? I went from I was working at Sam's Club because I'd left Target. I went all in. I was doing the thing for a while, and I was going to make it work, right? And then we found out we were having a baby, so I got a job at Sam's Club. I was working on the floor there, doing that, making $10 an hour. And then I got a text from a friend of mine, random text, and she says, "Hey, you know anyone who's looking for a job Monday through Friday, $30,000 a year?" I said, "I am. Me. That's who." And then she says, "Yeah, my friend of mine he's a financial advisor. He's looking for somebody to join his group or whatever," and stuff like that. I had no idea what it entailed. I had no idea what it was, but I knew I had a baby at home. And I knew I had a daughter that deserved more than, $10 an hour. And so I went through the process, and I studied my ass off, brand new baby. I put 12, 13 hours a day. I had my father-in-law. He'd come sit here at the house and watch her. And I would just sit there and study and study and study, and then pass the Series 7, when it took the test, passed that after studying for 2 months. And I passed the second exam, and then started the job in January. And then I had to pass property and casualty and life, accident, health, variable annuities, and everything. And then I found myself there, like, living the dream, right? And I found myself surrounded by these people, suit and tie, that were making well over six figures, $100,000 easy just to show up, just to show up and look at a couple portfolios and do the thing. And they were like, "Just stick around, Jason, like 5 years from now, you can have it all. You can be making a couple $100,000. Like, no problem." And I was like, this is ridiculous. I was like, I'm choking myself. I would show up every day, Kenyon. I had 2 dress shirts that I got from the Goodwill. Well, I had 2 that I got from Goodwill. I had a couple nice ones. But I should say they're nice ones because they were those J. Ferrar ones that you bought at JCPenney that came with the matching shirt and the tie. And it's the only way
the starter set.
Like, that was, to me, that's the extent of dressing up.
Yeah.
Because I had, like, the red one with the red tie and then the purple one. And I loved it. But I hated every morning that I would wake up and I would put that tie on. And I would choke myself, right? And I'd go to work and I'd sit there and I would pretend, you know what I mean? I would do the thing, and I felt like I was just pretending. I was just an imposter there, right? Pretending to be a financial advisor. And then I thought I was crazy when I left, right? It's like when I stopped it finally, I was like, this is miserable. Like, I don't care. I don't want to be here 2 years from now. And it's just interesting how many people do that, right? Or how many people don't do that, I should say. Like, how many people will continue to wear the costume? I feel like the suit and tie is kind of a costume that we hide behind to look professional and to make people think that we know the answers and that, we're smarter than them. I used to tell people as well that I used to challenge people on whether or not you would take advice from a public speaker if he stood on stage naked, but he could change your life with the message? Like, would you care what he had on? Like, oh my God.
Yeah, as long as you like, he's got a good message to put out. I mean,
Yeah, like think about it. You know what I mean? And but yeah, I used to think that every day. Like I'd leave, I'd quit, and I thought about it, right? And I think that was one of the lessons too for those people out there listening, you know, that are in your audience that are making 1,000,001 excuses about why they can't leave the job, or why they can't change the job, or why they can't sell the house, or why they can't sell the car, or why they can't move to the beach. Like, just get off your ass and go do what you want to do.
yeah, it's so simple. I mean, there's it just drives me nuts that there are so many people that think that you have to have the job with the steady income, with the, you know, cushy benefits, with, you know, that there's not, you know, if that's truly what you want to do, like if in your heart that's what you want to do, great.
Sure.
But I think that, you know, like the biggest tragedy is for you to deprive yourself of what you want. And the fact that you're a father, a husband, should not change that. You know, that's, you know, I can't think of a better example I could set for my daughter than to live my life exactly how I want to live it. And, you know, shouldn't have to sell out to, you know, to be a father, to be a husband, and to do it responsibly. You can still, you know, it's 2018. There, you know, you and I are connecting over, you know, we're connecting over, you know, thousands of miles via the magic of the internet. And, right. You know, there's no excuse for you these days not to add, you know, value to the world. And this notion that you need to, you know, that you're, you know, unless you're doing the 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, and, you know, putting in the overtime, you know, I think as long as you are providing value and you are making an impact in the world, like that's all that should matter. It doesn't matter how much you're punching the clock for, you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I think there are 2 points I got from what you're saying here. One, I am a firm believer 100%. I tell people all the time, and like you and I were discussing, right, the desire to work with entrepreneurial-minded people.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time that overtime is stupid time. Like, no job should ever get more than 40 hours. And if you want to work for anything above the standard, right, I'm going to go air quotes here, of what a job wants from you, then you should be hustling, and I'm not going to use that word. I hate that word. You should be working intentionally on your dream. You should be building something, right? Like you should be doing something that can get you money that isn't on somebody else's watch, that isn't on somebody else's dime, because, you know what I mean, it's worth an extra half a tick on the paycheck or something, but that's my thought. And then another piece I want everyone to know, and I don't know, did you get your copy of the book yet?
Yes, I did.
Okay, awesome. There is a chapter in there from a gentleman who was really awesome. He was he had a church in his barn, you know, like a few people. He's an older gentleman. I met him when we were working at Sam's Club together, actually, and I loved his chapter. He wrote a chapter. It's called "You Don't Have to Be a Breadwinner." You don't have to be a breadwinner to put food on the table. I digress. That's bad news bears. I do know the chapters in my book, guys. Don't freaking know. But the concept, right, is he said one of the quotes is, as long as you have bread on the table, then you're a breadwinner.
Yeah. Yeah. I just looked up that chapter. Yes. That's the title of the chapter.
Like, as long as you have bread on the table, you're a breadwinner. And I know there are people, if you're one of those millennials that are still striving to make it happen, right? And you're like halfway up the corporate ladder and you haven't realized yet that it's leaning on the wrong building. Just take that chapter, take those 3 words from that wise guy who was a musician and an artist and a creative and, you know, someone who wanted to put the message of Jesus into the lives of other people. Like, as long as there's bread on the table, you are a breadwinner. Like, if people at our age could understand that and the magnitude of that truthful statement, we could change the world. Like, fathers around the globe could change the world if they discovered that and then started to implement things.
Yeah, I mean, we put so much of our self-worth into our jobs, and I mean, how did you what were the key factors in making that mental shift in your brain? You know what I mean?
For me, it was watching my dad do it. I mean, it was watching my parents struggle, for too long. It was, when I gave my TEDx talk, right, I had mentioned the concept. I was like, all these men, fathers in this life think that all we need to do is put on the work boots and kick rocks for 60 hours. And my dad was a hard worker. He was a mechanic by trade. He worked at Valvoline and he worked at Goodyear, but he worked and he worked and he worked. And that's what he thought. Yeah. He thought that's all he could give us. Right. Like that was his way of providing. And like generations ago, like that's all they knew. And I get it. And it wasn't 2018 and they didn't know what was capable or what may have been possible for them. But I knew that just having a daughter, I knew that the one thing I wanted to be able to give her, like you mentioned, was to show her the legacy that I left, that I was willing to go for it, that I was willing to do something more. You know what I mean? Whether it was making $35,000 a year and making the intention that my wife would stay home with our daughter no matter what, or, you know what I mean? Is no different than the individuals that, I've talked on the phone this week that make, 80 or 90 or $100,000 and still can't seem to figure it out. I'm like, you don't have to figure it out. You just need to do the thing that you desire.
Yeah.
You need to make the choice that you value,
Yeah. I mean, it seems so simple the way you put it, but I think people tend to overcomplicate it and they like get into this, the self-defensive shell and the scarcity mindset that, if I lose my benefits, if I lose these guarantees, then I'm worthless. And
right.
I think people just need to realize that there's so much out there. I can't remember where I read it, but I think there's enough money on the world for, in the world today for everyone to live a comfortable existence. I don't know if everyone's going to be like a millionaire, but I think everybody can live comfortably if they learn to live life on their terms and provide and help other people to do the same things, whether that's owning a business, a manufacturing business that makes cars, whether that's owning or makes race cars or you're helping people lay this out and get over these hurdles, whatever that looks like. Figure out what problems you can help other people solve instead of just trying to find that next job or that next promotion. I think people have it backwards.
Yeah, I think I want your opinion on this, right? So you and I both know Al Dubon, the
Yes.
good Bon, right?
Yes.
So coolest thing ever, right? Al was in Michigan. He's in Michigan actually. Al's in Michigan this week. He's here for training from his job, right? So this past Sunday, actually, him and I drove an hour. We met up. We spent the whole day masterminding in the middle of the burger shop and chatting business and ideas and everything and stuff. And it was awesome. And, Al and I talk a lot, and I know that he's mentioned, talking to you and stuff a few times about things. And one of the ideas that him and I discussed, right, is he had said that people feel, these men in the world, right, they feel so much like they feel like they need to become a man before they can have the success. When the reality is that, you're already the man. You're already if you're a father and you're doing what it takes to take care of your family and to take care of your daughter, you're doing the day job. You're working on Noah's Ark because you know what you need to do to provide for your family until you make your thing happen, because you're destined for greatness, right? Greatness is around the corner and it's coming, but you also know that you're the man who's willing to do what you need to do. So what are your thoughts on why men particularly, why do fathers feel like, they're constantly on that treadmill to become the man before they think they can go find success or I should say go create success, go make something happen?
I just think that society has pushed certain, things with air quotes, that we need to be to be the man. And if we aren't living up to those, I guess, false standards, then we haven't achieved that status. But I think what we need to do is just like figure out what success for you looks like. And you just need to be you. And when you are you, you are, whether you're a male or a female, you're the man, you're the woman that you want to be. That's, to me, the definition of, being the man or the woman, or, or the husband, or whatever role you identify with. I think that if you can get clear on what you want, if you can get clear on the person you want to be, and constantly evolve yourself, like that. The other thing is that implies that there's some sort of finish line, like, or some sort of significant milestone. And while I definitely believe there should be checkpoints along your journey in life, that there is no finish line. There's always going to be another level. And if you stop doing that, you might as well just start digging your own grave at that point. So I'm starting to ramble here, but I hope that answers your question there.
Yeah. So what was it for you then? How did you kind of get to that epiphany? What was it like for you that, got you to say, you know what, I don't need the cushy job. I don't need to work on Noah's Ark. Like I'm going to do something. I'm going to strive for something more.
Well, it was just, I started to do these, check in the box. Like I started to, all right, I got I did 10 years active duty in the military. And I think that's what I should have been doing all along, because I was heavily involved in mentoring and helping people, achieve what they wanted to in their military careers. I got a lot of satisfaction and contentment from doing that and helping other people out. But, once I left active duty military, I thought that I was supposed to join the military. The military was going to help me pay for college, get my engineering degree. Things worked out. I got a master's degree out of the deal, and got a great job with a Fortune 500 company, UTC, United Technologies, Sikorsky Aircraft. I really enjoyed the job. I'll stop short of saying I loved it. Took advantage of a lot of my prior military experience. Was down in engine rooms on ships, but they relocated me to me and my wife down to State College, PA. We didn't necessarily enjoy that particular area, so took the next best thing that I could find up in Rochester, New York, at a hot, dirty, dusty glass factory that I was simply miserable in. A lot of good people there, but just wasn't the environment for me. And then that was my wake up call right there, was that particular job, because I was completely miserable. I sold that. I basically wrote a blank check with my time to that particular job, and I just wasn't I wasn't able to live my life on my terms at that point. So that's the wake up, that was my wake up call to really take a hard look at what I wanted. And, taking this job, which I immensely enjoy, was a step in the right direction, where I have a lot of responsibility, yet I have a lot of autonomy, and I'm able to, I have a greater degree of control over my time. So that shift has made me realize that I want even greater control over my time. And awesome. I was like, what, this, I want to have my cake and eat it too. And I firmly believe that, one of the ideas that my father instilled in me and my brother is like, what did he say? You can't have, if you try and have everything, or you can't have it all, or you won't have nothing at all, something like that. That mindset that my father, bestowed upon me and my brother, while had good intentions, I think, is maybe a artifact of his generation. And nowadays, I think there's nothing that can stop us from, having everything that we want in our lives. Whether that's having a positive relationship with my wife and daughter, being able to go and drive race cars on the weekends, and be able to take Hawaiian vacations or whatever destination we want to go visit. I think that there's nothing stopping any of us from being able to do any of those things. I think that's a long answer to your question, but hope that makes sense.
It does. I'm kind of curious what, as a husband, father, right? You had a young daughter. I'm thinking, right, trying to piece together the timeline there. How did you jump from? So they moved you down to, was it Pennsylvania? You said, and you didn't like it.
Yeah. I was in Rochester at the time. They moved us to Pennsylvania. Then I moved back up to Rochester, New York, and then now we're in Charleston.
So you didn't like. So you went from. I mean, you didn't like the job, and you just straight up left the whole state. So like, what was that kind of like? How did you go? I mean, because like I'm thinking of the dichotomy, right? So like all these husbands, and this is myself, so I'm being selfish here, right? So my wife and I, we intend on living in Tennessee. Like we want more than anything to just straight up move to Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
But we think about our daughter, right? And she's young, and where she's going to go to school, or we're going to put her here, or we're going to put her there, right? So how did you kind of have that courage, or like what got you to just say, oh, that looks like a good job. It's just a couple states away. We'll just, go up there. Or what made you not look for something close, like in the same state? Or
well, I knew that what I liked about my previous job, I would get with this one, and I was actually trying to get back on active duty in the military. Okay. So, but at this stage of my career, they just weren't taking, folks of my pay grade and whatnot. And I'm retiring this year, so I was pretty close to retirement at that time. So they weren't going to take someone who was close to retirement back on active duty. So this particular job had all those aspects. And it's funny how, like I mentioned earlier, you set your mind on something as if you had already achieved it, and it kind of works itself out, because the ship I'm responsible for is a former Navy ship. It's a former torpedo tester. It is at the former Charleston Navy base, which was converted into a federal law enforcement training center. And there's a Coast Guard element there that we kind of borrow pier space from. And my office happens to be the former Senior Enlisted Men's Club, or the Chiefs Mess, Chiefs Club on the former base. So it's like I'm back on active duty. So nice. It's a former USS ship. It's a former Navy base. There's still a significant military presence here in Charleston. So, my wife can, get a little bit of exposure to the military lifestyle. That's something that she expressed me as she wished she met me on active duty to experience that military house experience. But this just resonated. This particular job resonated with what I was after. We both enjoy, she enjoys going on cruises and going to Hawaii, and Charleston has, it's late October here, and we were at the beach, 2 nights this week, and we can go to the beach. My daughter's getting into surfing. When we're bored, we're like, what? If we're bored, beach. That's usually the answer to solve our boredom problems. So, it just made sense from all those various points, I guess.
I just find it courageous just that you just, to just kind of up and go, or, maybe it's somewhat different. Maybe you've had that experience moving around being in the military, but yeah, at least for myself, I'm still born and raised in Michigan, and I want to go. Like I want to be in Tennessee, which is the hills, but there's days where I question it and I think about it, like as a father, you know what I mean? Like, are we making the right choices? Are we, being able to still provide enough and do what we need, if you just up and go and kind of things. But
yeah, I think the the biggest thing for us was, if we can't make ourselves happy, how are we going to provide for our daughter? And that's, you have to take care of yourself first before you take care of anybody else, whether it's your daughter or take care of a client. Like, you can't serve them in the most powerful way possible if you're not, taking care of yourself. So that's how I feel about that.
Solid point.
So, man, this has been the longest interview I've ever done here, but awesome. Man, I've just started a CrossFit coaching gig here, so I gotta start wrapping things up here. But if people are interested in getting in touch with you, what are the best ways that people can get a hold of you?
They can find me on Facebook or Instagram at Jason Pockrandt. They can also head over to jasonpockrandt.com. They can sign up for the newsletter there and get all the information about what's going on in the life of Fatherless to Fatherhood. And then give it a couple days. It's just under construction for the order page. But in about a day or so here, they can head over to father-daughter-conversationsbook.com, and they will be able to get a free copy of the latest book, Father-Daughter Conversations. Just got to cover the cost of shipping and handling. So I will have that up and live and ready to go here shortly.
Awesome, man. Well, man, this has been an epic conversation, and maybe we should do a part 3 and 4 here, and continue this conversation, man. This has been awesome, and appreciate your time here, and we'll be definitely be staying in touch, man.
Yeah, definitely, man. You get bonus points. I didn't know you were a fatherless father like me, so we'll have to stay close and connect more for sure on some things.
Yeah, definitely, man. Alrighty. Well, thanks again. And actually, before I let you go, do you have any last second golden nuggets that maybe you want to drop on us before we wrap things up here that maybe you didn't get a chance to mention here?
Yeah, I just want to say if you're a father out there listening, if you have sons, if you have daughters, I want you to take a moment today to love your wife, cherish your life, and be fully present with your kids. Because if I can tell fathers to do one thing that is more important than absolutely anything in this world, and that is to play with your kids.
Yeah.
So I want you to spend more time playing with your daughter and playing with your son, and realizing, I don't care if they're 3, 5, 10, 15, 18, if they're still at home, you as a father are the most important person that they look up to, and that you are building the foundation for them in this life. So take time to play with your kids, and please be present with your daughters, and have some father-daughter conversations that they can cherish for a lifetime.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for that. And, like I said, this has been an awesome conversation. Look forward to keeping in touch with you.
You too, man. I appreciate it. Take care, Kenyon.
All right,
remember, guys, no excuses.
Hell yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to the Zero Excuses podcast. Join the conversation at kenyonzitska.com in our Facebook group. And don't forget to rate and subscribe to our show. We'll talk to you next week. And always remember, results, not excuses.